I'm Tricia Perry for Vision of the Valley. For 100 years, thousands of Valley shoppers have made Rulli Brothers a destination on a weekly basis. But today we're going to talk to one of the brothers about why so many come so far just to shop here.
Hi Trish, how are you?
I'm
good to see you.
How are you?
Excellent.
I'm at Rulli's because it is 100 years old this year, but I'm here all the time.
You are, you're a great shopper. So this is our 100th anniversary. We started in 1917 and now it's 2017, so we're celebrating our big 100.
That's amazing, especially for a family-owned local grocery store that you have been here 100 years.
It's really something, and I really give all the credit to two different sources, basically my customers and my employees.
Okay, let's take me through when it started in 1917, how that all happened to today.
Well, it was my grandfather and his brothers, and it started with my great uncle Frank. He was the first one to come over here. He came over in the 1890s, 1897, 1898 is when he first came to New York City. So the word on the street in New York City that Youngstown, Ohio was the booming city.
Really?
Absolutely. And a lot of this is because after the Civil War, Youngstown was so big with the steel industry, and it was just a booming business. So we were like a little New York City. So my great uncle Frank, he decided to take a gamble and make the trip from New York to Youngstown. So during the 1890s, he spent several years here researching different things. So at the turn of the century, right before the year of 1900, he actually bought our property on Early Road, which was our homestead. So then he would go to the process at the turn of the century from like 1900 to 1903, and he would go back and get my grandfather, who was younger than my great uncle Frank. So they would all come back to Youngstown.
Okay, so they first opened a store in 1917.
1917.
Was a lot of it their own produce that was on that farm?
Absolutely.
On Early Road?
Yeah, what happened was, when they were in Italy, they were used to growing their own produce. So we grew our own produce for 50 or 100 years in Italy, so that was wonderful. So that's what we knew. So when we bought the property on Early Road, they built a cottage and they started growing produce. Well, in the meantime, all three of the brothers were working in the steel mills. So they're working in the steel mills at different shifts. And so when they weren't on their shift, they would get the produce from the farm and sell it on the street corners.
Well, that's brilliant.
Yeah. And so they did that from like 1905 to 1917 when they get their first storefront on East Federal Street.
Okay, now we are standing in the newest store, but it's not that new anymore, but it's the 9th store, you said,
This is our 9th store, and this is our 8th year in this store, and we're very proud of it. My brother Frank was the architect on it, and it just came out amazing. I think it's the nicest store in Ohio, to be honest with you.
I would agree, but you know, I'm partial.
You're partial, absolutely. Everyone in Youngstown's partial.
I know, we all are. So going back to that first store, you had several locations then downtown, right, when you started
The 1920s and the 1930s were really amazing for the family. We had several stores downtown. We had 3 on East Federal Street, 21 East Federal, I believe 345 East Federal. We had one on 286 East Federal Street. We had one on Central Square. And then we also had a store that was actually where the YMCA parking garage is. That was our last store downtown. Yeah. That's right.
Okay.
And we did really well. And then, of course, the Depression sort of had a little bit of an effect on our business, but we survived it quite well.
And then maybe some of the urban stuff going on downtown where businesses were moving out, that kind of affected you, didn't it?
It absolutely did. Like I said, my grandfather, my great uncle Frank, they really took care of business in the 20s and the 30s and the 40s. But unfortunately, after the war, they started dying. So by mid-1950s, the whole first generation died. And so my dad took over at the age of 14.
And he was really young. I remember that story.
Yeah, and then I actually released a story that a lot of people didn't know about him getting a special driver's license from the governor of Ohio at 14. He's the only one in Ohio history that ever happened to. So
because he needed to drive around for the business.
Yeah. He would open up the farm at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then by 7 o'clock he would drive downtown and let the butchers in and open up the store. And then he would go to East High and he would take his classes until noon. And then he'd go back to the store and work the store until 5:30, and then go back and check on the farm and do it all over again. And he's been doing that for 60 years.
I know, he's still here opening the store.
That's right, still doing it. And so we're quite lucky to still have him around helping out like he does. He's definitely our mentor, and he's the beacon. He had a tough decision. In 1969 and 1970, Youngstown didn't understand what their future was going to be. They thought that the steel mill was going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, instead of the opposite. So they created a program called Urban Renewal, which in my opinion was a horrible program. It was the absolute worst program Youngstown ever did. So what they did is they basically kicked out anywhere between 75 to 100 small businesses downtown, right out of the location. They evicted everyone, thinking that they were going to build these skyscrapers. So we were basically left without a location. So what my dad had done is he bought property on the corner of South Avenue and Matthews Road. The construction of the store wasn't ready, so we actually had a store that a lot of people don't know. So this would be an amazing trivia question. What's the shortest amount of time that we ever spent at one location? And that would be the store on Youngstown Poland Road, right across from the Holiday Bowl. Now we would be there almost the entire year of 1970. The entire year we spent at that store. In the meantime, we were building our store on Matthews Road, so that we moved in 1971. By 1977, it was such a huge success, we doubled it. And the reason why it was a huge success is we took like that old world charm, the full service meat, full service deli, and we brought it to the suburbs. So if you were around in the 1970s, Boardman was quite the place to be.
I was 5, so I don't remember, but yeah.
We were all quite young. I'm not even sure if I was born then.
You probably weren't.
But it was quite an experience. And so life was really good for us. And Boardman has been very, very kind for us. We've been in Boardman since 1971, and it was amazing. So then in 1988, right when I was leaving high school, my parents decided to try Austintown. So we actually revamped a store on the corner of Kirk and Raccoon. So next year will be our 30th year in Austintown.
I can't believe that.
I know.
30 years.
And Austintown has been so kind to us. My heart goes out to Austintown and the West Side. They have treated us with the most beautiful things you can imagine. Just support, kind words. They really are our family, just like Boardman and the whole Youngstown area. What we noticed though, is having the store in Austintown and having the store in Boardman, is that we became a destination store.
Exactly.
Yeah, so when I go through my check cashing cards and I look at different locations of where people come from, and believe it or not, we have people from Chardon, we have people from, Meadville, Steubenville, we have people from Cranberry.
And all those relatives that come to visit that have to come here.
That's right, Akron, Canton. I mean, they come from all over, and Mentor. Right. So, I mean, you have people that are traveling in an hour. And what we always say, if you're in Austintown or Boardman, stop in the store because we're going to make it worth your while. We carry 43,000 items. A lot of these items you cannot find in Youngstown.
Right, that's the reason.
Yes.
I mean, because this is a great grocery store, but it's also special.
That's right.
Like an Italian market.
Like an Balducci's or like a Dean and DeLuca, if you've ever been in New York City, those are the type of stores, but on a much grander scale. Yeah.
Okay, so right now we're standing, right behind you is the cucina, the kitchen, and there's the meat and the deli.
That's right.
So those are things that really have an old world charm when you come to Rulli's. So let's walk around and talk about some of those. Obviously the cheese is your brother's thing, and he's not here today, but he knows more about cheese than anybody. It's nice being friends with him.
He does, and and we're quite lucky because a lot of these cheese houses, like when you go to Italy and you go to these cheese houses, they've been around for 300 or 400 years, and it's almost like winemakers. They're very proud of their cheese. They have the wax seal on their cheese. There's a whole art form as far as aging the cheese, the sheep milk that they use. I mean, it's a methodical, obsessive process. And fortunately for us, a lot of these families we've been buying off of for 70 or 80 years, so they answer the phone when we call. Because we're so small, a lot of times these guys don't want to deal with a small guy like us, but they still ship it to us right from Italy, and we're really lucky. And my brother Frank's a specialist with that, so
I know, it's great. So like, what's your favorite kind though? Let's look at these.
I love Gouda. I love the Pecorino Romano.
And you can get great deals. Like that's only $3.59. It's not that big of a, sometimes cheese is really expensive, but that's not big of a big expense. And then I'm looking, I can't stop looking at the wine because you put your name on a lot of products.
We've developed our private label program about 15 years ago when we're up to 123 different items. Everything from wine, we have grated cheese, we have eggs, we have all the sauces and the pastas and peppers and oil and all kinds of good stuff.
I have to say, I'm very fond of the red.
Yeah, the red.
I mean, it's
I like the white.
Yeah. I think it's great, and I tell everyone here all the time, whatever you're doing, keep bringing it in because it's really good. So you have this amazing deli where you can get any kind of mortadella. I learned about that in Italy and all of the great meats.
Mortadella, and once again, like when you talk about like your prosciuttos, prosciuttos are just like the cheese. It's an art form. In Italy, they're very proud of a prosciutto house and how they cure it and how they salt it and how they hang it up and how they dry it. It is like an amazing thing.
So if you come in here and you're confused, though, you have people that can answer the questions,
right?
Oh,
absolutely. Yeah. All our staff is very well versed on everything. And I mean, we're really big with olives too.
Yes.
We used to have a little reputation called the King of Olives. I ship them all over the country, and we love our Greek clientele. We like to have the grape leaf stuffed and the fetas. We have 4 or 5 different fetas. We have fetas that are actually from Greece, fetas that are from Budapest and Hungary. We have feta that is from Germany. So we really pride ourselves on that.
Yeah, and all kinds of things to eat them on. And
the vendors have really picked up their game. The Mediterranean diet has become so popular now. So you see a lot of the vendors that have actually created a product to incorporate with the Mediterranean diet. Right. And there's no better place than us than the Mediterranean diet because that's where we're from.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's walk down this way.
Okay.
We're in this wonderful, huge aisle of all kinds of pasta, every kind of shape that you can imagine.
We are kings of pasta. There's been a couple studies that say we have the largest pasta section in the state of Ohio. Quite proud of that. And we're always looking for even new things. I mean, we have your traditional Di Cecco.
Right.
We have like, Giarusa and Delalo, all your standards. Yeah. And even like Delalo came out with a gluten-free, so we carry the whole line. So we have a lot of customers asking for gluten-free. But we have a lot of unusual items too. We have like your traditional Borelli, but we even get into like a lot of the imports and a lot of the more artisan pastas. And your noodles, we have like over, I think there's 65 different kinds of noodles.
Yeah.
They import that out in Brooklyn, New York, and that's become really big lately.
So, and these come in like little balls that you...
Yeah, those are the nest.
Yeah, nest.
Yeah, like if your grandma would talk about the nest, so that would be the nest. And Calavita, that's really big, and they're coming out with gluten-free too. So there's a lot of different options here.
There's some more of those.
That's right.
I've never cooked with those. I have to try that sometime.
They're a lot of fun, and you have Prima too. Now, Primo and Di Cecco are sort of the staples. You know, those are the things over the last 100 years that a lot of the Italians really go to, the reliable. And but we have every cut under the sun. If there's a cut that's made in the world, we carry it.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, is there a person like your brother Frank does the cheese? Is somebody else the pasta person?
Well, my brother Mark. Yeah, Mark and Ed Dembski. We have a gentleman, Ed Dembski, that runs our groceries for us, and him and Mark and my dad, they buy all the pastas. We buy pastas from over 150 different vendors. So we're very aggressive with our pricing, which is one of the reasons why people keep going with that destination. You know, when you go into our competition, you're going to see a little 4 8-foot section. You know, over here we have 148 feet of pasta. So
148 feet. I was going to say, how big is this aisle?
With 6 things high. So there's a lot of pasta. Yeah.
And then right behind you is olive oil, which that is a huge staple now. Everyone has it. Everyone cooks with it.
Everyone loves olive oil. And you know, the thing about it is when you, like I mentioned before about the Mediterranean diet, people are looking for healthy. So whenever you see any of these different health programs on TV, they're constantly saying olive oil, or they're constantly saying, you know, go with light balsamic vinegars, which we carry a lot of.
All kinds of, yeah.
And you know, you do need to be conscious of how you cook. And so if you really want to kick up your game and go to the healthy end of it, the olive oil is the way to go. And of course, you know, olive oil is quite interesting because when they press olive oil, you have different layers of olive oil, which is a different quality. When you press an olive oil, when you press the olives, at the very bottom is pomace olive oil. And pomace olive oil is great for cooking, but you really don't want to use it for more than that because there's going to be pieces in it because it's the lowest end of it. And then the whole middle part is called 100% pure. Now that's the one I personally use. I like Felipe Burio. They call that the golden one. That's sort of the standard in the Italian life. And then you have virgin olive oil, which is the top part of the cream. And at the very, very top of the pressing, you have extra virgin olive oil. The extra virgin olive oil is considered the best there is. It has a very distinctive taste to it, so if you like that, it is wonderful on salads. It would be something that you wouldn't be afraid to actually use as part of the meal versus something that you're actually cooking with.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and around the corner you have much more than this. So
once again, I think we hold the record in Ohio for how much olive oil you have. And olive oil is actually sort of an interesting thing because olive oil is made in different places.
Right.
Now, of course, I favor the Italian olive oil, but the Greeks are huge with olive oil, and just as much as the Greeks, the Spaniards. Spain is huge with olive oil, and we carry them all.
And does it matter can or bottle, or some put them in a can?
I personally think like the can, and now like this is an organic extra virgin olive oil, and this is actually from Greece. This is really hard to find. I get $9.49 for it because it's a high-end import. But if you were at Balducci's in New York City, they'd be getting $24 for this.
Wow.
And I even have some competition in Pittsburgh, the one that specializes in organic, and he gets $19.99 for the same exact can, so I'm half the cost. So really, you could get high-end quality here that you would find in New York City or San Francisco for half the price.
Right. Okay, so as we go down this aisle, there are olives, there are peppers, all kinds of yard items. This is stuff that maybe...
It's my favorite aisle.
Is it really?
Absolutely. You have everything from coconut oil and coconut milk, and you have high-end preserves, you have clams and clams juices. We're really well known for our sardines and anchovies. These are companies that are out of like Ontario, Canada, and we have some from England and some from Italy. And this is really high-end stuff with amazing prices that you're not going to find anywhere. Right. We ship these all over the world.
And I love the middle of the store because this part with these aisles makes me feel the most like I'm in a special Italian market.
Yeah, I mean,
not necessarily
right?
Yeah.
We have like over here, just looking at this,
the
you have
coffee.
Lavazzo, San Pellegrino. I mean, you have Ferraro, all these wonderful companies that have been around for 200 years, and we're lucky to have them, and this is why people travel like they do. Now over here though, we were just talking about the sauce. And see, the funny thing is, like, you know, being Italian, sauce is like an art form, and they sort of define your family name, like how well you do your sauce. So there's so many ways you could do it. You could go to my wonderful produce department, which is my favorite department in the whole store. And
we'll get there.
We'll get there. And you could actually buy the tomatoes, and there's so many different kind of tomatoes I sell fresh, whether it's a Roma or a 4x5 traditional or a hot house or a cluster on the vine. There's so many different tomatoes that you could actually cook down. Right. And you could even mix things in there. You could even start off with a Roma or a hot house and start cooking it down, and even put grape tomatoes in there to spike it with a little bit of sweetness. That's a lot of work.
Yes.
Okay, so if you don't have that much time, which most Americans don't,
I know.
You can make your own sauce. And now we have it so, we have every degree of simplicity that you could want in preparing sauce. If you want to get a jar sauce, open it up, throw it in the pot, your crock pot or
pan on the stove.
Pan on the stove. You could just cook that, heat it up and serve it. If you want to get a little bit more creative, you could start with the paste, and then you can maybe mix a paste in with like a 6-in-1, and you can mix that in with the sauce. And you can be creative where you don't have the time that's involved in actually cooking down the actual stewed tomatoes.
Right.
And if you want to get the stewed tomatoes, they have the stewed tomatoes actually in the can. So there's so many ways you could go. Go crush, go sauce, go Italian sauce. You could go paste. You could do everything. You could do diced. I mean, there's a lot of options when you're doing with sauce and a lot of possibilities. Some of these cans are already pre-seasoned too, so that you don't even have to add anything.
Right.
So
yeah, it's my style to usually take your sauce, the Rulli Brothers sauce, and add things to it that I like to add to it, and then cook it for a couple hours with meatballs in it, and
you're good to go.
I know, people think I'm amazing.
Well, and not only that, but you could actually create almost a couple different meals, because not only could you have your pasta meal, which, you know, I love penne, but you can do it, you know, capellini, angel hair, anything you want to do, you could do that. But when you have that sauce and those like meatballs made, you put those in the Tupperware and you put them back in your fridge and you have meatball sandwiches for lunch.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a lot of fun.
No, this is a lot of fun to come here. It's fun to explore food here, ask questions, find out about different things.
Hopefully you get answers too when you ask the questions.
I get answers all the time. I get great answers.
Wonderful.
And I think it's, you know, your staff working with it, your family, you're very knowledgeable, but your staff as well.
And usually this is what saves the day when we make ourselves a lot of espresso. Because, you know, we're here all the time and we live here, so.
Why are we in this aisle? I'm kind of confused.
Well, we were going to do some baking, and I like to bake with you. You know, we love that.
Sure.
But I thought we'd stop and just take a moment and pause and look at our gluten-free section. Now, me personally, I have several family members that are gluten-free, so we really have had to adapt how we cook. And it's not really a fad anymore. People really need to do it because of medical. So throughout the store, especially like in the frozen food and the dairy, we'll get fluorescent signs to accent gluten-free, but we wanted to kick that game up a little bit. So what we did was we developed a 24-foot section that has all gluten. So like, take for instance, like one of the biggest problems when you're gluten-free is baking. So you need a flour that's gluten-free, and you need different ingredients that are gonna help you bake and cook gluten-free. That's what we've developed here. We've also developed not only pastas and pancakes, but like, okay, over here, Red Mill, Bob's Red Mill. That's all gluten-free stuff. And there's everything from like, you could get, I mean, look, cinnamon raisin bread mix, you could get still cut oats, you could get regular bread, cornbread. And we have all the snacks. You have chips that are gluten-free, you have granola gluten-free, muffins that are gluten-free.
Things you never would have thought of. But this makes me realize, and not like I needed to be reminded, that you really adapted over the 100 years. You've adapted and included and changed a few things that really kind of kept with what people are doing now and where food is going.
Absolutely. And you know, and this is something, we love what we do. A lot of my competition doesn't like their job. We like being around people. I think we provide the most basic necessity humans need, and that's food. So if you shop in the stores, you're gonna see me or my brothers or my dad on the meat counter or ring and register, or especially in produce. We love produce. But when you see us, we're like welcome to your suggestions and we're welcome to your ideas, because you're gonna help us grow as a company. So when you say, you know, I wish you had a bigger gluten-free section, we take that to heart. You know, we don't just, you know, go in one area and not the X. We try to develop that program so we could actually fulfill your needs. And so really, you know, I've been quoted before saying that we have a family of 20,000. It's true, because my customers will dictate to me the way the company grows.
Now, one thing you didn't need to learn about quickly, you've known forever, is the meat department.
I love meat.
So let's go over there. Okay, here we are in the meat department, and this is surprisingly cart-free.
Yeah. Well, the trick with
Rulli
Brothers is because a lot of people say you have such long lines. The little secret that we know, because we live here, is if you come right when we open or right before we close, you usually get in and out. It's
pretty
that,
quick,
yeah,
yes,
it's like that 10:30 until like 6:30 that we're really, really busy. But if you come right when we open or right when we close, you could get in and out. Now, we are in the meat department, which is a wonderful, it's our premier department.
Yes, it's beautiful. And you know, I never realized the value of having a good butcher until I was, I don't know, in my 30s or something. But this is an amazing place to go if you have any questions about any kind of meat that you need to use.
That's right. We have 5 different butchers on staff. Our meat department is our premier department, so we pride ourselves a lot with our meat. There's a big difference between us and the majority of my competition, and that's we still do a carcass beef program, which means that we feature Ohio, choice, grass-fed swinging beef, which means that the beef is raised in Ohio. We know the farms it's raised on, and it's all natural, it's all grass-fed, it's certified by the USDA. And since it's a swinging carcass beef, that means that from processing to your plate is within days. The competition usually has things that are cryovac sealed or sprayed with preservatives. A lot of times they're 3 or 4 weeks away from process. So, and we have a lot of the old-fashioned cuts.
Right.
Like take for instance right here, we have a round bone roast. Now a lot of the old Eastern Europeans, the round bone roast is one of their premier cuts. Most of my competition doesn't even carry that anymore, because a lot of the younger people don't know what to do with that.
Right.
Lucky for us, the cooking channels are actually educating the masses on how to use some of these specialty cuts. Same thing goes with your English with the bone.
Huge. Oh my
That's
goodness.
right. Your blade roast. You know, of course your eye around and your blocks. Those are you know, your backbone.
And I have to say, I've seen your family at the fair bidding on the 4-H animals, because you actually buy animals there.
We love 4-H. In fact, my dad is the only living human being that has been at every 4-H auction at the Canfield Fair. It started, I believe, in the late 1950s, and he's gone every year. And we miss our good friend Henry Nemitz used to go with him too, and he passed. But it was this fun rivalry tradition that we had for over 40 years at the Canfield Fair, and we were honored to be a part of it. And we still go every year. We never miss.
I know.
Never ever miss.
I've seen your family there, so that's where a lot of this comes from, and it is important to have that shortened time between the animal to the table.
And you know, and the 4-H program is really important for a lot of reasons. You know, the American farm is one of the last frontiers that we still hold. So when you have these young kids that could actually be involved in raising these steers, and they're Ohio, and a lot of times we develop a relationship with them, and we keep buying their beef in the future so we can continue to feature the Ohio beef, because we're proud of Ohio.
Okay, so clearly it's your favorite part of the store, because you can't stop arranging everything and fixing it all.
My favorite part of the store is produce. We're the king of produce. No one in the whole world will touch me.
Okay.
We love produce.
We know.
Produce, produce, produce.
So, and why do you love produce so much? Why is that your favorite part of the store?
Ever since I was a little boy, out of all the sections of the store, produce is the most lively section. Most of these plants are still alive. So you not only have that aspect of it, you have the color, you have the seasons. I mean, like if it's the fall, you have the corn, you know, stalks, you have the pumpkins, you have the squashes, you have all the fun, exciting things. You get into Thanksgiving, you have cranberries, fresh cranberries. And then, you know, of course, you go into Valentine's Day, you have strawberries. We're just finishing the Vidalia onion season, which is incredible. And then now you're gonna go into the Florida, Georgia watermelons, New Jersey's growing produce. And then in about 3 or 4 weeks, Ohio is really starting to develop. Like right now, these radishes are coming from Hartville, Ohio.
Lovely.
And it's only May.
I know,
so
it's beautiful.
That's wonderful. And you have the green onions are coming from Ohio. By the time you get to 4th of July, my entire produce department's gonna flip to about 50% Ohio produce. And most of it's from like Lisbon or, you know.
Is that why it's so economical? Because we all notice how it's very economical.
We're very price savvy on produce. And in the summer, we buy off of a lot of Amish growers and Mennonite growers. I live down in Columbiana County, so a lot of the farmers are my friends. So we buy a lot of it, like a lot of corn, a lot of peaches, and blueberries, and it's all local stuff, so that's wonderful.
Yeah, so this is kind of your thing.
It is my thing, and you know, it's, as far as like, you know, the more time that goes on in American history, we realize that health is so important because we want longevity. You know, this was a wonderful experience, this life. So if we could stay healthy with it, they always go back to produce. You know, the vegetables, the greens. The more you stay in produce, the healthier you're going to be. And so that's what I do. But I'm going to do it so I could save you money. You know, I'm priced 40 to 50% below most of my competition on produce. And we do it because of volume. You know, we love our volume and we love our produce.
Right. So going back to what we said at the beginning, that this is really sort of a destination for people, not just an everyday grocery store, which it is for everyone here locally, but it's also a destination. And did you have to try hard at making it that way, or is it something that just happened and then you had to adjust and kind of run with it?
Well, actually, when you go back on the full circle thing that we're doing right here, you can see, like when I was talking about my grandfather and my great uncle Frank, in the 30s and the 40s and even the early 50s, we used to deliver a lot of produce and meats to different areas. We would have like one day where we'd go to Meadville. We'd have another day where we'd go to Lisbon. We'd have another day where we'd go to Steubenville. We'd have another day where we'd go to Chardon. Because especially like during the holidays and stuff, we have all that hard to find fish. So we used to deliver to all these different places. I don't know how my grandpa did it. But I think what happened is we sowed the seed. So like a lot of these people that are maybe a half hour, 45 minutes or an hour away, they heard of us. And they knew that you're gonna get great quality and amazing prices and a smile, you know, because we're so thankful for our customers.
So it just kind of unfolded and you
100 years of just growing, yep.
And don't forget, they do have regular grocery items here at Rulli Brothers. So as you're planning your trip, find them on Facebook or go to rullibrothers.com. And don't forget that just like the markets of the old days, they are closed on Sunday. For Vision of the Valley, I'm Tricia Perry.